The first time Ava Morgan saw Dante Vale lose control, the sky over Monaco was burning gold, and his entire fortune was on fire. She stood barefoot on the marble floor of his private vault, trembling beneath the cold white lights, as stacks of money turned black in the flames behind him. Gold bars glowed like molten suns. Security alarms screamed through the underground chamber. Armed men waited in silence at every exit, too terrified to move. Dante stood in front of the fire like a king watching his kingdom die. His black suit was stained with ash. Blood marked one side of his jaw. His eyes never left Ava. Everyone had told her what he would do when he found out she had betrayed him. They said he would punish her, destroy her, make an example of her so brutal that no one in Europe would ever whisper his name without fear again. But Dante only held the lighter in his hand and said calmly, "They wanted my empire." The flames rose higher. "Now they can choke on the ashes." Ava could barely breathe. "Why are you doing this?" For the first time since she had met him, the most feared mafia boss in Monaco looked almost human. "Because they touched you." 3 weeks earlier, Ava Morgan still believed numbers could not lie. She lived alone in a small apartment above a flower shop near the old harbor, where the mornings smelled like espresso, sea salt, and rain on stone. At 28, she had built a quiet life out of discipline. She worked as a financial analyst for Lucent Meridian, a private wealth firm that managed accounts for billionaires who preferred their names kept out of newspapers. Ava was good at making sense of secrets. She noticed what other people missed. A transfer routed through 3 shell companies. A signature placed 1 hour too late. A missing decimal that meant someone was hiding millions. She had learned early that numbers were safer than people. Numbers did not smile while betraying you. Numbers did not promise forever and disappear before morning. Then came Dante Vale. He arrived at Lucent Meridian during a storm. The office went silent before Ava even saw him. Phones stopped ringing. Conversations died mid-sentence. Through the glass walls of the conference room, she watched men twice her age lower their eyes like schoolboys caught lying. Dante entered wearing a black overcoat wet from the rain, flanked by 2 silent bodyguards. He was not loud. He did not need to be. Power moved around him like weather. Ava had heard his name before. Everyone in Monaco had. Dante Vale owned hotels, casinos, shipping firms, galleries, charities, and enough politicians to make law feel optional. Officially, he was a businessman. Unofficially, people crossed streets when his cars approached. He was the man no one accused twice. Ava was called into the conference room because one of his offshore portfolios had triggered a compliance alert. Her boss, Martin Ellery, looked pale when he introduced her. "Mr. Vale, this is Ava Morgan. She handles high-risk account structures." Dante turned toward her. His gaze was steady, almost unnervingly calm. Not hungry, not friendly. Assessing. Ava lifted her chin. "There are irregularities in the transfer chain." No one breathed. Martin forced a laugh. "A small technical issue." "It is not small," Ava said. Dante's eyes narrowed slightly. "Explain." So she did. She showed him the forged trustee approval, the duplicated invoice, the hidden routing through Cyprus, then Zurich, then a private bank in the Cayman Islands. She expected anger, denial, threats. Dante only listened. When she finished, he looked at the documents for a long moment, then back at her. "You found this alone?" "Yes." "And you reported it?" "I flagged it internally." "That was brave." Ava frowned. "It was my job." Something unreadable crossed his face. "Those are rarely the same thing. That should have been the end of it." It was not. 2 nights later, Ava returned home to find her apartment door unlocked. Nothing obvious had been stolen. No drawers were open, no windows broken. But her laptop was warm. Her desk chair had been moved. On the kitchen counter sat a single white envelope. Inside was a photo of her walking to work that morning. On the back, written in black ink, were 5 words. "Stop looking into Vale." Ava did not sleep that night. The next morning, she called the number her late father had once told her never to use unless she was in real trouble. He had been a federal accountant before he died, the kind of man who checked locks twice and never trusted wealthy men who smiled too easily. The number connected her to an American federal liaison named Caleb Rourke. Caleb had kind eyes, a calm voice, and the practiced patience of a man who knew how to make fear feel manageable. He met her in a hotel cafe overlooking the harbor and listened as she explained the suspicious accounts, the envelope, the photo. "You were right to call," Caleb said. Dante Vale is not just laundering money. He is the financial center of several criminal empires. Ava's stomach tightened. Caleb slid a flash drive across the table. We need someone inside Lucent Meridian. Someone smart enough to trace the money without getting caught. Ava stared at the drive. You want me to spy on him? I want you to help us stop him. She should have said no. Instead, she thought of the photo left in her apartment. She thought of her father, who had spent his life believing dirty money always left blood behind. She thought of Dante's calm eyes across the conference table, as if he could already see every secret inside her. Ava took the drive. For 2 weeks, she copied files, traced payments, photographed handwritten ledgers, and met Caleb in different places every time: a museum corridor, a church courtyard, a parking garage beneath a luxury hotel. Every step felt like walking across glass. And every day, Dante Vale moved closer. He requested her personally for account reviews. He asked questions no client asked. He watched her too carefully, but never touched her. Never threatened her. Never raised his voice. One evening, after a meeting inside his private casino office, he found her standing alone on the balcony, trying to steady her breathing. Below them, Monaco glittered like a jeweled trap. You are afraid of me, Dante said. Ava kept her eyes on the city. Shouldn't I be? Yes. The honesty startled her. He stepped beside her, leaving enough space that he could not be accused of cornering her, yet close enough that she felt the heat of him through the cold night air. But not tonight, he said. She looked at him. What happens tonight? His gaze lowered briefly to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. Tonight, I am trying very hard not to ask why you look like a woman preparing to run. Ava's pulse jumped. I'm not running. No, he said softly. Not yet. The elevator doors opened behind them. One of Dante's men appeared. Boss, he said. There's a problem downstairs. Dante did not look away from Ava. Stay here. I don't take orders from you. His mouth curved faintly, but there was no humor in it. I noticed. Then he walked away. Minutes later, gunfire shattered the casino. The first shot sounded, You Menger's ace. You may. The first shot sounded like a glass tray dropping. The second sent people screaming. Ava turned toward the balcony doors, just as masked men stormed the private floor. She froze. One of them saw her. Before she could move, Dante was there. He dragged her behind a marble column as bullets tore through the glass wall. His body covered hers, one arm locked around her waist, his coat shielding her from the explosion of glass raining down around them. Ava pressed her hands against his chest, feeling the controlled violence of his breathing. You said tonight I shouldn't be afraid of you, she whispered. Dante looked down at her, his face inches from hers. I said not of me. Then he rose and became something terrifying. He moved with cold precision, not rage. His men appeared from hidden doors. The attackers fell one by one. Ava saw only flashes. Dante's hand closing around a gun, his body turning between her and danger, his voice cutting through chaos like a blade. When it was over, the casino floor looked like a ruined cathedral of glass and blood. Dante returned to her. Are you hurt? Ava shook her head, though she was trembling. His eyes dropped to a thin cut on her shoulder where glass had sliced her skin. Something changed in his face. Not softness. Possession. He reached out, then stopped before touching her. Someone will pay for that. It's just a cut. No, he said. It is a mistake. That night, Dante moved her into his penthouse. Ava refused at first. She argued in the armored elevator while his men stood like statues. She told him she would call the police. He told her the police had already been paid by the men who attacked the casino. You don't own me, she snapped. Dante looked at her reflection in the elevator doors. No, he said. But someone is hunting you because of my world. Until I know who. You stay where I can keep you alive. The penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of a black glass tower overlooking the Mediterranean. It was beautiful, in a way that felt lonely. Floor-to-ceiling windows, dark wood, white orchids, silent guards, a private elevator that opened only to Dante's handprint. Ava was given a bedroom larger than her apartment. She did not sleep. At 2 a.m, she found him on the terrace, shirt sleeves rolled up, a glass of untouched whiskey beside him. You knew the attack was coming, she said. I suspected. And you didn't cancel the event? If I cancel every time someone wants me dead, I would never leave the house. That's not funny. It wasn't meant to be. Ava folded her arms against the wind. Why protect me? Dante looked out over the sea. For now, because you are useful. The answer should have relieved her. It hurt instead. She hated that it hurt. Over the next days, forced proximity became its own kind of war. Ava continued working remotely under Dante's watch. She still sent files to Caleb, though now every message felt like a loaded gun. Dante's people monitored the building. His cars followed her when she insisted on returning to the office. His presence lingered everywhere, even when he was not in the room. He never apologized for controlling the space around her, but he learned how she drank her coffee. He noticed when she skipped meals. He appeared silently whenever her hands started shaking after a call from Caleb. One night, Ava found a dress waiting on her bed. Black silk, elegant, expensive, with a note in Dante's handwriting. Wear this. You are safer beside me than hidden upstairs. She marched into his study holding the dress. I'm not your decoration. Dante looked up from a stack of documents. No. Then why am I going to your gala? Because the men who want you dead need to see you under my protection. And the dress? His gaze moved over her slowly, not disrespectfully, but with a restraint that made her breath catch. Because they also need to understand I value what I protect. The gala was held inside an old Monaco palace lit by crystal chandeliers and candlelight. Ava entered beside Dante with every camera turning toward them. Whispers moved through the room. Dante Vale never brought women to public events. He certainly never placed a hand at the small of one's back with such quiet warning. Ava felt the pressure of his palm through the silk dress. She hated how safe it made her feel. Halfway through the evening, a French banker named Lucien Orsatti approached her while Dante was speaking to a minister. You have no idea what kind of man you are standing beside, Lucien murmured. Ava met his gaze. I have some idea. Lucien smiled. No, you don't, but you will. His hand closed around her wrist. Before Ava could pull away, the room went still. Dante was there. He did not shout. He did not hurry. He simply looked at Lucien's hand until the man released her. Apologize, Dante said. Lucien swallowed. It was nothing. Dante stepped closer. Then apologizing should be easy. Every guest watched. Lucien's face reddened. I apologize. Dante turned to Ava. Was that enough? Ava stared at him. He was offering her the choice in front of everyone. No, she said. A flicker of approval moved through Dante's eyes. Lucien went pâle. Dante leaned in and spoke softly into the banker's ear. Ava could not hear the words, but Lucien's entire body changed. His arrogance collapsed into fear. By midnight, Lucien Orsatti's bank accounts were frozen, his security contracts dissolved, and his private jet denied clearance. Public humiliation reversal, delivered without Dante raising his voice. In the car afterward, Ava looked at him through the dim light. What did you say to him? Dante's eyes remained on the road ahead. That if he ever touched you again, I would remove every hand he had used to build his life. Ava should have been horrified. Part of her was. Another part of her felt something far more dangerous. Caleb warned her the next morning. He's isolating you, he said through an encrypted call. That's how men like Vale operate. They protect you until you confuse control with care. Ava looked across the penthouse at Dante, who stood by the window speaking quietly into his phone. I know what I'm doing. Do you? Caleb asked. Because you sound different. She ended the call with guilt burning in her chest. That night, Dante caught her in the hallway outside his office. You lied today, he said. Ava's blood chilled. About what? I asked if you were all right. You said yes. That isn't a crime. In my house, it is suspicious. She almost laughed, but his expression stopped her. He stepped closer. Who frightens you more, Ava? The men trying to kill you, or me? She looked up at him. You. His jaw tightened. Good, he said, but the word sounded like a wound. For the first time, Ava saw it. He wanted her fear because fear made sense. Fear kept distance. Fear gave him control. Trust would ruin him. The betrayal came 3 nights later. Ava stole the final ledger from Dante's private office while he was meeting with his captains in the underground club beneath the casino. The ledger connected shell companies, weapons shipments, political bribes, and laundering operations worth billions. She copied everything onto Caleb's drive. Then she saw the last file. It was labeled Ava Morgan. Her hands went cold. Inside were photos of her apartment, her office, her flower shop, her father's grave, security logs, medical records, old school records, a childhood photo she had never seen, and a handwritten note from Dante. She is not involved. Keep her untouched. Ava staggered backward. He had been watching her long before the casino attack. Before she could process it, the office doors opened. Dante stood there. No guards, no anger, just silence. Ava clutched the drive in her hand. His eyes moved to it, then back to her face. How long? He asked. She could not lie anymore. Since the beginning. The room felt suddenly too large. Dante nodded once, as if confirming something painful he had already known. Federal? Ava's throat tightened. Yes. His face did not change. That was worse. Who? She said nothing. Dante stepped closer, and the air shifted with him. You broke into my office, he said. Copied my ledgers. Sent my accounts to men who will use them to start a war. And still, the only question I care about is who put you in danger. Ava's eyes burned. You did. For the first time, something in him flinched. You think I wanted this. I think you watched me, controlled me, lied to me. Yes, he said, to keep you alive. Don't make this sound noble. There is nothing noble about me. The honesty cut through her anger. Dante looked at the drive in her hand. You should leave now. Ava blinked. What? Take the elevator. My men will not stop you. Why? His voice lowered. Because if you stay, I might forget that loving you does not give me the right to keep you. The word struck the room like thunder. Loving. Ava stood frozen. Dante turned away first. Go, Ava. So she did. And the moment she left his tower, the city turned against her. Caleb did not take her to a safe house. He took her to a private hangar. The rain came down hard as Ava stepped out of the car, still clutching the drive. Where are the agents? She asked. Caleb's expression changed. The kindness disappeared. There are no agents. Ava stepped back. Two men emerged from the shadows. Caleb held out his hand. Give me the ledger. You're not FBI. I am, he said. Just not loyal to them. Ava's pulse roared. Caleb smiled. Dante Vale's empire is collapsing tonight. The Romanos, the Korsakovs, and half of his own captains are moving against him. That ledger is worth more than any government case. You used me. Yes. His eyes hardened, and he let me. Ava froze. What? Dante knew you were feeding us information. From the first week. The world tilted. Caleb moved closer. He could have killed you. Instead, he protected you. Romantic, in a pathetic way. Ava run. Gunfire cracked across the hangar. She slipped on the wet concrete, slammed into a fuel truck, and scrambled beneath it as men shouted behind her. A black SUV exploded through the gate, headlights cutting through rain. Dante. His men opened fire. Caleb's men scattered. Dante stepped from the SUV like death had arrived in a tailored coat. Ava crawled out just as Caleb grabbed her from behind and pressed a gun to her side. Dante stopped. Rain streamed down his face. Caleb smiled over Ava's shoulder. You really do have a weakness. Dante's eyes were locked on Ava. Not the gun. Not Caleb. Hey, I told you to leave, he said quietly. Ava's voice broke. I thought I was saving people. I know. Caleb tightened his grip. Drop your weapon. Dante did. Every man in the hangar stared. The most feared mafia boss in Monaco laid his gun on the ground for the woman who had betrayed him. Caleb laughed. That's beautiful. Dante's gaze darkened. No, he said. It is unfortunate. The lights went out. For 3 seconds, the hangar became darkness, rain, and screaming metal. When emergency lights flickered back on, Dante was already moving. Ava felt Caleb ripped away from her. She fell to the ground, gasping. Dante's men surged forward. Caleb escaped through a side door with 2 surviving guards, but the message was clear. The war had begun. Dante reached Ava and lifted her into his arms. She tried to speak. To apologize. To explain. He only said, not here. His shirt was soaked with rain and blood that was not all his. Ava pressed her face against his chest and felt the violent pounding of his heart. For the first time, she understood. Dante Vale was not afraid of dying. He was afraid of arriving too late. They fled Monaco before dawn. Not to a palace, not to a hotel. To an old stone safe house on the stormy coast of southern France, where the sea slammed against the rocks and the windows rattled like they were trying to warn them. Dante's empire fractured overnight. Accounts froze. Captains defected. Warehouses burned. Politicians denied knowing him. The news called it the largest organized crime collapse in modern European history. Ava watched it happen on a small television in the safe house kitchen. Every headline carried her fingerprints. Dante stood behind her. "I destroyed you," she whispered. "No," he said. "You exposed men who were waiting to betray me. You lost billions. I have lost things before." She turned. "Did you know Caleb was dirty?" "I suspected, and you still let me work with him?" Dante was silent. Ava's anger returned sharp and sudden. "You used me too." "Yes." The word hit harder because he did not defend himself. "I let the investigation continue because it forced my enemies into the open," he said. "But I underestimated how close they would get to you, so I was bait." His face tightened. At first, Ava looked away. Dante stepped closer, then stopped himself, hands curling at his sides like touching her would break the last restraint he had. "At first," he repeated. "Then you became the only part of the plan I could not control." The storm beat against the windows. Ava should have hated him. She did. But hatred was clean. This was not. This was guilt tangled with longing, fear tangled with trust, betrayal tangled with the memory of his body shielding hers from bullets. For 3 days they stayed in the safe house while the world hunted them. The forced proximity changed them. Not softly, painfully. Dante became colder with everyone else and more dangerously attentive with her. He stood outside her bedroom door at night, but never entered. He checked every window before she slept. He cooked once, badly, because she had not eaten all day. When she cut her finger on a broken mug, he held her hand under running water with such controlled tenderness that she could barely look at him. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. His thumb hovered over her wrist, almost touching her pulse. "Yes," he said, "I do." Their first near confession happened during a blackout. The storm killed the power just after midnight. Ava found Dante in the candlelit living room, stitching a wound on his own shoulder. "You need help," she said. "I have had worse." "That doesn't mean you should do it alone." He looked up. Something in his face made her regret the words. Not because they were wrong, but because they were too true. She took the needle from him. He led her. As Ava stitched the wound, her fingers brushed his skin. His breathing changed once, barely. His gaze stayed on her face with unbearable intensity. "Why did you keep the file on me?" she asked. Dante was quiet for so long she thought he would not answer. "Your father found one of my laundering routes 8 years ago," he said. "He could have exposed me. Instead, he came to me privately because the route was being used by men worse than me." Ava's hand still. "My father knew you?" "Yes. He never told me. He wanted you far from this world." "What happened to him?" Dante's eyes darkened. "He was murdered before he could finish tracing the money." Ava's breath caught. "You knew?" "I found out too late." The room seemed to tilt around her. "My father's death was not an accident?" "No." Ava stood, stepping away from him. "You should have told me." "Yes." "Why didn't you?" "Because you already looked at me like a monster," Dante said. "And I did not know how to tell you that. For once, the monster was not the one who killed someone you loved." Ava turned away before he could see her cry. But he saw anyway. Dante rose slowly. He came close enough that she felt him behind her. But he did not touch her. "I am sorry," he said. It sounded like a confession dragged from a place inside him no one had reached in years. Ava closed her eyes. His hand lifted, stopped inches from her shoulder, then lowered. That restraint broke her more than touch would have. The attack came the next morning. A missile struck the cliffs below the safe house just after sunrise. The explosion blew out half the windows. Ava hit the floor as glass rained over her. Dante was on her instantly, covering her body with his wild stone, and fire burst through the room. "Move," he ordered. They ran through smoke toward the underground tunnel beneath the house. Ava's ears rang. Blood ran down Dante's temple. Behind them, the safe house burned. In the tunnel, Dante's men were already waiting with weapons. But so was betrayal. One of his oldest captains, Matteo, raised his gun. "I'm sorry, boss," Matteo said. "The Empire dies with you." Dante stepped in front of Ava. The tunnel lights flickered over his face. "You brought them here." Matteo's eyes shifted toward Ava. "For her? You burned us for her?" Dante's voice was deathly calm. "You mistake survival for loyalty." Matteo laughed bitterly. "No. You mistake obsession for love." The shot rang out. Dante moved before Ava even understood what was happening. He took the bullet meant for her, then fired once. Matteo fell. Ava screamed Dante's name as he dropped to one knee. He pressed a hand to his side, blood spreading through his shirt. I'm fine, he said. You were shot. I said I'm fine. You liar. Even wounded, he almost smiled. They escaped through the tunnel to a hidden harbor where a black speedboat waited beneath the fog. Ava held pressure on Dante's wound as the boat cut across violent gray water. He was pale now. Tu parles. Stay with me, she said. His eyes found hers. You sound afraid. I am. Of me? No. That single word moved through him like a blade. He looked at her as though he had waited his entire life to hear it and hated that it came when he might die. At a private clinic outside Genoa, Dante refused anesthesia until Ava was safely inside the building. He nearly collapsed in the doorway. When he woke hours later, Ava was beside his bed. His first words were, "Are you hurt?" She laughed once through tears. "You are impossible." His gaze moved over her face. "That is not an answer. I'm not hurt." "Good." Ava looked at the bandage around his ribs. "You took a bullet for me." "Yes. Because you needed me alive for your plan." Dante's eyes held hers. "No." The silence after that felt like a kiss that never happened. But peace did not last. Caleb sent Ava a video that night. It showed Dante's remaining warehouses, his accounts, his men being hunted. Then Caleb appeared on screen, clean and smiling. "You have 48 hours, he said. "Give me the original ledger and access codes to Vale's reserve vault, or every person who ever helped you disappears, starting with the flower shop owner beneath your apartment." Ava's blood turned cold. Dante watched the video once. Then he stood, despite the wound. "No," Ava said. "You can barely walk. I can kill sitting down. This is my fault." Dante turned to her. "Never say that again." "It is true." "No," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Men like Caleb build traps and convince good people to blame themselves for stepping into them." Ava's eyes filled. "You don't know if I'm good." Dante came closer. "I know exactly what you are." "And what is that?" His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then lifted. "The only person who ever betrayed me and broke herself doing it." The final plan was madness. Dante would give Caleb what he wanted: access to the reserve vault beneath his Monaco tower, where billions in cash, bearer bonds, diamonds, and gold were stored outside the banking system. Every rival family would come. The Romanos, the Korsakovs, the corrupt ministers, Caleb's buyers, Dante's traders. All of them expecting treasure. Instead, Dante would bury the empire. Ava stared at him when he explained it. "You're going to destroy everything." "Yes." "Why?" "Because as long as it exists, they will hunt you for the keys to it. But it's your life." Dante looked toward the dark sea beyond the clinic window. "No, it was my cage." The night they returned to Monaco, the city glittered as if it had no idea a funeral was coming. Ava wore a white coat over a black dress. Dante wore black, as always, his face unreadable, his wound hidden beneath perfect tailoring. In the elevator down to the vault, Ava stood beside him in silence. His hand hung inches from hers. Neither moved. Then the elevator jolted. Ava stumbled, and Dante caught her waist. For one suspended second, they were too close. His thumb pressed lightly against her ribs. Her hand rested against his chest. She felt his heartbeat. "Ava," he said, as if her name was the last restraint he had left. The doors opened before either of them could break. The vault was enormous, carved beneath the tower like a cathedral built for greed. Cash stacked in sealed walls, gold in rows, paintings in climate-controlled glass, diamonds locked beneath steel. Caleb arrived with the rival families. He smiled when he saw Ava. "You look well for a woman who ruined a king." Dante said nothing. Caleb held out his hand. "The codes." Ava stepped forward. Dante's eyes shifted to her. She handed Caleb the drive. For a moment, victory flashed across his face. Then the vault doors sealed behind everyone. Caleb's smile faded. "What did you do?" Dante removed a small silver lighter from his pocket. "The one thing none of you believed I could." Ava looked at him, understanding too late. "Dante." He flicked the lighter open. Caleb shouted. Men reached for weapons. Dante dropped the flame. Fire rushed along hidden accelerant lines beneath the cash stacks. The vault erupted in controlled devastation. Sprinklers did not activate. Alarms screamed. Bulletproof shutters trapped the flames inward. Chaos exploded. Men who had killed for money watched money become smoke. Dante moved through the panic like the fire belonged to him. Caleb lunged for Ava, but Dante intercepted him. The fight was brutal and close. All fists, blood, and fury held back for too long. Caleb spat blood and laughed. You gave up everything for her. Dante hit him again. No, he said. I gave up what kept men like you alive. Ava grabbed the emergency release from the wall, but a Romano guard raised his gun at her. Dante saw it. The control snapped. He crossed the burning vault faster than thought, slammed the man into the gold racks, and shielded Ava with his body as bullets sparked against steel behind them. His face was inches from hers amid smoke and fire. Stay behind me. For once, Ava whispered, shaking. I will. They fought their way to the service exit as the fortune burned behind them. At the threshold, Ava looked back. The empire was dying in flames. Dante watched her instead. Not the money. Not the gold. Here. Caleb made one final move on the rooftop helipad. Smoke rose from the tower beneath them. Helicopter blades thundered overhead. Monaco glittered below, like a city made of secrets. Caleb dragged himself through the rooftop door, gun raised. Ava, he shouted. She turned. Dante stepped in front of her. The shot hit him in the shoulder. Ava screamed, but Dante did not fall. He advanced through the pain with terrifying calm. Caleb backed toward the edge. You're nothing without your empire, Caleb said. Dante looked at him, then at Ava, then back. You still don't understand, Dante said. She was the first thing I wanted after I stopped wanting power. Caleb's face twisted. Sirens rose below. Federal helicopters circled in the distance. Dante's surviving loyalists had sent everything Ava copied. Every ledger, every recording, every name to legitimate authorities and international press. This time, the truth could not be bought. Caleb was arrested before dawn. The rival families collapsed under the weight of their own exposed crimes. Politicians resigned. Banks were raided. Lucent Meridian was seized. Martin Ellery tried to flee and was caught on a private runway with 2 passports and Ava's name on a kill list. Dante disappeared from public view. For 3 weeks, Ava did not know whether he had survived the rooftop wound. She returned to her apartment above the flower shop under witness protection, though nothing felt like home anymore. The harbor looked smaller. The rooms felt too quiet. Every black car made her heart stop. Then, one rainy evening, she saw him. Across the street, standing beneath a dark umbrella, Dante Vale looked thinner, paler, human in a way power had once hidden. No bodyguard stood beside him. No convoy waited behind him. Just the rain, the streetlights, and the man who had burned a kingdom rather than let it become her grave. Ava crossed the street before fear could stop her. You're alive, she said. Dante's eyes moved over her face like he was memorizing proof. Yes. Why didn't you come sooner? Because I promised myself that if you were finally free, I would not be the next cage. Ava felt the words break something open inside her. And if I don't want freedom without you? His expression changed. Very slightly. But she saw it. Hope looked dangerous on him. Ava, he warned softly. She stepped closer. No. You don't get to burn billions for me. Take bullets for me. Ruin your empire for me. And then decide what I'm allowed to feel. Rain slid down the umbrella between them. Dante stared at her. I am not a good man. I know. I have done unforgivable things. I know. I will never be harmless. Ava reached for his hand. This time, he did not stop her. I never asked for harmless, she whispered. I asked for honest. His fingers closed around hers with careful restraint, as if devotion required more discipline than violence ever had. I love you, Dante said. No performance, no poetry, no escape, just truth, finally stripped of empire. Ava looked at the man everyone feared, the man she had betrayed, the man who had chosen her life over his fortune, his power, and his name. I know, she said softly. That's why I came back. Months later, Monaco still whispered about the night Dante Vale burned his fortune. Some called it madness. Some called it strategy. Some said no man like him could ever truly change. But in a quiet villa on the stormy coast, far from casinos and cameras, Ava learned the truth was more complicated. Dante did not become soft. He became honest. He still moved like danger, still watched doors before entering rooms, still spoke with the calm of a man who could end a war before breakfast. But with Ava, his silence changed. His hands became careful. His eyes no longer looked through the world as if nothing in it could touch him. On the first anniversary of the fire, Ava found him standing on the terrace at dawn, the sea silver beneath the morning light. You miss it? She asked. The money? The empire? Dante looked at the horizon. No, she smiled faintly. Liar. He turned to her, and the old darkness in his eyes softened into something deeper. I miss believing power could protect me from loss, he said. Then you betrayed me. And I learned the only thing worse than losing everything was losing you. Ava stepped into his arms. This time, he held her without hesitation. Below them, waves struck the rocks like applause from another life. And for the first time, the man who had once ruled through fear lowered his head to the woman who had destroyed him, saved him, and become the only fortune he had ever been afraid to lose. Behind them, the world kept whispering his name, but Dante Vale no longer turned toward it. He only looked at Ava. And when the sun rose over the sea, he kissed her like a vow made in fire and kept in silence.